All right, so lesson 2.8. What we're going to do is talk about, in a sense, two different things. We're going to talk about and statements and or statements. Call this an and because, listen, what I have here is x is greater than negative 4 and less than or equal to 2. See how that works? It's everything in between. This one is going to be an or statement because it's x is greater than 2 or x is less than negative 1. See how it works? So I have to say greater than, but I got to flip over here to or. That's why this is an or statement and this is an and statement. Okay? So example number 1, describe. So let's go ahead. What I have here is x is going to be greater than negative 4 and x is less than or equal to 2. You guys agree with that statement? Now you can write this as one statement, but I'll have you write that. So x is greater than 4, negative 4. I see that. And x is less than or equal to 2. Okay, now you can write this together like this. You can go negative 4 x 2. It says the same thing, but instead of having to write it twice, just write it as one statement. Now, if we read x first and read it backwards, it does say x is greater than negative 4, right? See that? If we read the x first, x is less than or equal to 2. Same thing we have here, but as one statement, okay? And statements, little hint, the arrows always point this way on and statements, okay? The arrows always, the Pac-Man symbols always point that way. Or statements are going to go the other way. So let's check it out, okay? So this one is going to say x is less than negative 1 or x is greater than 2. I could write that as one statement. I can go my negative 2 x 2, all right? And if I read x first and cover this one up and read it backwards, it really does say x is less than negative 1. That's what I had here. Cover that up. X is greater than 2. That's what it says here. But it shows it as one statement. Again, one of the ways you can, if it's an or statement, the arrows always go that way. Okay, is that helpful? If it's an and statement, the arrows always go that way. An or statement, the inequality symbols always go that way. Okay, that should help. Okay. Example 2 it says or, so I know I'm probably going to have a disjunction. But let's solve for x. This is easy. Minus 3, right? So if x is less than or equal to negative 1, or divide by 3, x is greater than 3. All right, so let me put a negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? I'll put a solid dot on negative 1. I'll put an open dot at 3 because there's no little equal sign for the 3, right? So if you don't have a little equal sign, it's an open dot. If you've got a little equal sign, it's a closed dot. So x is less than or equal to negative 1, that's got to go that way, right? And x is greater than 3 goes that direction, okay? We could write it as one statement, which I'm going to. Negative 1, x 3. And I know from what I told you up here that if it is an or statement, the arrows go that way. The symbols go that way. And it makes sense. X is greater than negative 1, yeah. Less than negative 1, or x is greater than 3, okay? Example 2, there's one trick I have to be careful. I'm going to divide by a negative, aren't I? Just divided by a negative, so if I divide by a negative, I've got to be careful. And when I divide by a negative, I turn the inequality sign, right? So I make it into x is greater than or equal to negative 4 and plus 3, x is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so I can write this as one statement because it's an and. I'm going to go ahead and use my inequalities, go that way. I'll go negative 4, I'll go less than or equal to x less than or equal to 5. Negative 4 on my number line. I'll put 0 here and I'll put 5 here. You can put all the numbers in between if you want. It's not important to me. Definitely a closed circle here because of the equal sign. close circle here. So it says it's greater than negative 4. That's this direction, right? Greater than negative 4. And it's less than 5, so that's that way. So if you continue, and it has to be both, you end up getting everything in between. So it just shades in between, okay? That's how that works. It's going to be greater than or equal to negative 4 and less than or equal to 5. And the only numbers that both those work for are the ones in between. All right, now, example 4. Here's our absolute value, right? So I do know that I need the endpoints. The endpoints are easy. I know for sure I'm going to have 3 and negative 3 will work, right? I know that x can equal 3 and x can equal negative 3, because I know if I put in negative 3, it comes out as a positive 3, right? So those are my endpoints, okay? So I'll put a negative 3, I'll put a 0, and I'll put a 3, okay? And you don't have to put all the numbers in between if you don't want to. Now, I'm going to put an open circle here, because there's no little equal sign there, right? An open circle there, because there's no little equal sign, right? Sorry, Abby. Okay. And then what I'm going to do with that is read what this says. I'm going to have less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. So less than 3 would have to go this way, right? Less than 3. But then if I put in my negatives, remember we talked about this. If I put in my negatives, negative 4 won't work, right? Negative 5 won't work, negative 6. But negative 2 would work, because that'd be negative 3 won't, but negative 2, negative 1. So we want to have it go like this. Okay, now, so what we get is 2 answers. Again, this symbol, see this symbol is less than? Looks like that, doesn't it? Looks like an and. So it goes with what we're talking about. It should be in between. All right? Example 5 works the same way. I know I'm going to have border points at x equals 3 and x equals negative 3, right? So I'm going to put at least a negative 3 and a 3 down. I'll put my 0 in between. There's no equal sign on this, right? There's no equal sign, so I'm going to put an open circle at 3, and I'll put an open circle at negative 3 because, you know, there's no equal sign there. Now, let's see. What numbers would be bigger than 3? Well, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Bigger. It says it's greater than 4, 5, 6. So I want to shade that way, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then with the negatives, again, we talked about how negative 4 would come out as a 4. Negative 5 would come out as a 5. Negative 6 would come out as a 6. Because whatever goes in comes out positives. So these numbers, like x equals negative 4 and x equals negative 5, would make it greater than 3, right? Because if I plug in negative 4, it comes out as 4. 4 is greater than 3. So I shade it this way, right? Looks like an OR statement. Again, here's my greater than symbol, and it should look like a disjunction. Sure enough, it does. Now, example 6 is a little bit different. We're going to have to go back to what I told you earlier. If it's an absolute value, there are going to be, write this down, please, 2 answers. Write this down. Circle it, highlight it, whatever you have to do. But make sure that is somewhere on your notes. We're going to need 2 answers. Okay? And sure enough, example 4, we had 2 answers. Example 5, we had 2 answers, right? So we're going to have 2 answers. I do know it's going to be a disjunction because it's greater than. How are we going to get 2 answers? We're going to write it twice. We're going to rewrite this as a 2x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5, or 2x plus 1 is less than or equal to negative 5. Okay, write that down, and I'm going to make a very important point. Okay, write that down. 2x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5, or 2x plus 1 is less than or equal to negative 5. Okay. Well, I made it negative. So what happens when we make it negative? We turn the inequality, so we switch sign. Remember, we've done that before, right? So sure enough, I needed 2 answers, so I wrote it twice. The second time I wrote it, I made it negative, and I turned the sign. We learned up here that the negatives can be part of the answer, right? So now we're just going to solve it. No problem. Minus 1, right? 2x is greater than or equal to 4. Divide by 2, x is greater than or equal to 2. All right, there's one answer. We're going to put that on our number line in a second, okay? Minus 1, right? 2x is less than or equal to negative 6. Divide by 2, x is less than or equal to negative 3, okay? All right, sorry, Abby, I got to try and get out of your way. So I'm going to go negative 3 here. I'm going to go 2 here, and I'll probably put 0 in here. You don't really need 0, but you need the endpoints for sure. Okay, definitely solid dots on both because of the equal sign, right? So definitely solid dot, solid dot, solid dot. It's a greater than symbol, so probably it's going to be a disjunction. It's going to go, right? We talked about disjunction because it's greater than. So let's read it. X is greater than 2. Well, that makes sense. That's that way, right? You guys agree? Greater than 2? I mean, bigger than 2 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to definitely shade all of that. And this says x is less than or equal to negative 3. So I'm going to shade all that, okay? I can write this as a single statement with both signs. I can put negative 3 greater than or equal to x greater than or equal to 2. This is a faster way than writing it twice, okay? I want you to get used to seeing that. Guess isn't too hard, is it? Just remember, again, 2 answers. One is the positive version and the other is the negative version with absolute values. 2 answers, all right? Turn the page. Okay, we're getting there. All right, example 7. So on example 7, what we're going to have to do first is get rid of the 2. Like we always do, let's just solve. Let's bring the 2 up. Let's not mess around with anything until we get the absolute value by itself. So bring up the 2, we'll multiply by 2, right? So all I've done is the 2, so I still have the absolute value of 3x minus 9, less than or equal to 24, okay? Just took care of the 2. The 2 is not inside the absolute value, so I'm just going to get rid of the 2 first. Okay, now, 2 answers. 2 answers. Has to be 2 answers. So the way I write it, I write the positive part, and then I write the negative part. So the positive part, positive, is going to be my 3x minus 9, less than or equal to 24. And then my negative part is going to be my 3x minus 9 is greater than or equal to negative 24. If I make it negative, I have to turn the sign, right? If I make it negative, I've got to turn the sign. So I did that. So I wrote the positive part. When I wrote the negative part, I turned the sign. 2 answers, always 2 answers. So now we just have to solve it, okay? Plus 9, plus 9. I got a 3x is less than or equal to 33, right? Divide by 3. Divide by 3, we've got x is less than or equal to 11. Okay. Over on the other side, plus 9, what is that? Negative 24 and 9, let's see, is that 16, 15? Must be 15, right? Negative 15, 3x greater than or equal to negative 15. Divide by 3, x is greater than or equal to negative 5, all right? Now, let's go ahead and put my negative 5 on my number line, my 11 on my number line. 0 is probably right about there. I'm going to make a solid dot because it equals. We've got the equal sign part, right? So solid dot on negative 5 and solid dot on 11. It says it's less than or equal to 11. So that's that direction, right? But it says it's greater than or equal to negative 5. That's that direction. So what we do is we just shade in between. I already knew that, though, because remember I told you if it was a less than symbol, it would be an and statement, right? Definitely an and statement. All right, last but not least, example 8. You ready? Trick question. It's a trick question. Because whatever I put in here comes out what? Positive. Why is this a trick question?
Because it's negative?
Yeah, you got a negative 2, right? So whatever I put in here is going to come out to be a positive number, right? Has to be. Is any positive number going to be less than negative 2? Is that possible?
No.
No. And you wouldn't have known it. You could have solved this like we always do. You could have, okay, x plus 3, negative 2, x plus 3, greater than positive 2, and you could have solved, you could have gotten an answer. But the answer won't make any sense. Because whatever you put in here has to come out positive, right? And any positive number will never be less than negative 2, right? So it's our answer.
No solution.
No solution. Exactly. No solution is exactly right. And I've got this little symbol that I like. Remember that little symbol? Or the empty set. Okay, now we're going to cut down on this homework. It's way too much. Let me